a Marshallese government supply ship on my way back from Inuit Castle, where I've been reporting on the nuclear waste sites threatened by climate change. This is exactly the kind of stories I like to do, where I can combine on the ground, shoot letter reporting with the foreign policy and hopefully carve out a space for myself in the male-dominated world that is foreign policy. Thank you.
Peter Madsen was a Danish inventor who built the world's largest privately made submarine. On the 10th of August 2017, the 30-year-old Swedish journalist Kim Wall boarded the submarine for a reporting assignment outside of Denmark. With her on the submarine was the Danish inventor Peter, who made the submarine himself and called it Nautilus. But Kim Wall would never return to dry land alive. This is the case of Kim Wall. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Elin, and on this channel I cover true crime cases that have occurred in the Nordic countries. Before I start, I just want to say Happy New Year everyone. I'm so excited about a new year as I love the thought of a fresh start, and if you haven't started following your dreams yet, this is the perfect time to start. Some content warnings before we start this video. This video will include sexual violence, torture, talks about murder and things surrounding that, and the details of this case are overall very raw, so if that's something that you don't want to watch, then I suggest you click out of this video. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and now let's get into the case that happened in Denmark. So, Kim Wall was born on the 23rd of March 1987 in Skåne in Sweden. She grew up with her parents, who were both actually journalists, and she often accompanied them on their journalist trips. As a child, she was described as curious, and she loved animals and always had a longing to see the world. She later studied in university in Sweden, London, Peking, and New York, so it's fair to say that she was a pretty smart girl.
Kim had an infectious curiosity that was almost childlike in nature, full of innocence and goodwill.
She grabbed every opportunity she could. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Along the way, her life became an adventure.
Kim Wall was a very devoted journalist who was writing about subjects that needed to be talked more about, such as identity, gender, pop culture, social justice, and foreign policy. She was a very successful journalist, and her texts were published in, for example, the New York Times and The Guardian. In 2016, Kim got the Hansel Mieth Prize for the Best Digital Report for her text Exodus about nuclear testing and climate change in the Marshall Islands. Kim was a beautiful person who was fearless and adventurous. Friends describe her as having an almost childlike curiosity, and she gave the best hugs. Kim also liked to travel and went all around the world, especially for her journalist missions. In the summer of 2017, she was living in Copenhagen in Denmark with her boyfriend while she was freelancing as a reporter. She came across a Danish inventor who had built the world's largest submarine and really wanted to interview him, and this man was Peter Madsen. Peter Madsen was born on the 12th of January 1971 into a very poor family. He grew up on a Danish island with his mom, dad, and 3 older brothers, and describes the household as being full of conflicts, violence, and fights. There was a huge age gap between his parents. His mom was 26 years old, and his dad was 62 when Peter was born, so a huge age gap between the parents. Peter describes his dad as being extremely violent and used to raise his older brothers by hitting them with a belt and a coat hanger. Peter was, however, the favorite of the siblings since he was his dad's only biological child. When Peter was 6 years old, his parents divorced, and Peter had to choose to live with his mom or his dad, but Peter himself says that he knew that he had to pick his dad to not make him angry. After he moved in with his dad, he only saw his mother once a year, since his parents used Peter as a weapon when they were fighting. Peter also said that his dad used to switch between acting loving and violent towards Peter and had many weird values, such as being racist. As a teenager, Peter was a bit of a nerd and did not have many friends. His dad was also very old, and when Peter was 18, his dad moved into an elderly home, and soon after that, he died. As an adult, Peter became a bit of a minor celebrity in Denmark, described as a crazy inventor who built more extreme machines. So he was a person that many people in Denmark actually looked up to a lot. He was also described as a genius, but could be a bit of a storyteller. He had built 3 submarines, and his latest mission was building a rocket that could launch him into space. People from around the world came to help him with this project, and it was funded by volunteers, so many people put a lot of time and money into this project. In 2011, he got married to a woman who wants to stay anonymous. Peter himself describes them as having an open relationship, and his co-workers describe him as having many relationships with different women. One of his co-workers also describes Peter as having strong mood swings and difficulty cooperating with others. One of his co-workers said that with time he learned that Peter was actually a really great liar, even if he in the beginning seemed very trustworthy. Peter had recently finished his project, a submarine called Nautilus, which was black and 18 meters long. As I said, Kim had seen Peter's submarine and had been in contact with him about interviewing him, and he agreed to this, which leads us to the day of the crime. On the 10th of August 2017, Kim was doing an article about Peter for a magazine called Wired, which she actually was really excited about doing. Kim was seen waving from the submarine when it was leaving from the harbor. She also texted her boyfriend telling him that things were going well and that she loves him. She actually texted, quote, "I'm still alive by the way, but I'm going under now, I love you." But after the submarine goes underwater, things are starting to get weird. Kim was only supposed to be on the submarine for a couple of hours, but when she did not return back home, her boyfriend actually started to worry. So after a while of her not coming back, he later in the night called the Coast Guard, and soon after the police started looking for the submarine. The submarine with Kim and Peter was reported missing, and a warning of a possible accident was sent out. On the 11th of August 2017, so the next day at 10:30, the submarine was suddenly seen from a lighthouse. A man was also seen in the submarine's tower, and this was actually Peter. Peter then made radio contact from the submarine, saying that he was south of Copenhagen, and he said that everyone on the submarine was okay. Everyone was relieved for a while since the submarine was found, thinking that Kim was okay since that's what Peter said. But suddenly a new call came in that the submarine was sinking and Peter was jumping into the water. So the submarine sank in 30 seconds, and this was strange since a submarine usually does not sink like that. According to experts, the way it sank was the same way that it dives. And I'm not an expert in this whatsoever, but this is what they said in the documentary that I watched. That apparently Peter had explained that the submarine sank because the valve was open, and according to experts, anyone can see if the valve would be open, so basically the valve must have been opened intentionally. And that's why it was believed that the submarine was sunk deliberately. And Peter also jumped into the water alone, but there was no sight of Kim, so that was also very strange. So when Peter came to dry land and was asked where Kim was, he said that he had dropped her off the night before and that she was fine. He was looking very tired and was also acting strange, and he explained that he was sad because the submarine sank. But something in his story did not add up, so he was arrested when he returned to the shore. At first, people thought that something had happened to Kim after she got off the boat, since Peter said that he had dropped her off, but soon people started feeling like maybe Peter was actually hiding something. Since Kim was a Swedish citizen, she was reported missing to the Swedish police as well, and the police quickly realized that Peter had never dropped Kim off, as he said, since there was security cameras around the area that he claimed he had dropped her off, and they could see that nobody came from the harbor. So at this point, the police knew that Peter was lying, and divers were sent down to the submarine, but no one was found inside of it. On the 13th of August, so a couple of days later, Peter Madsen was convicted of Kim's disappearance. In the preliminary court hearing, he claimed that he was not guilty. On the 13th of December, they also lifted the submarine out of the water and investigators started searching it. There was a lot of suspicious things found inside of the submarine. The boat was, first of all, very messy. And there was also blood found in it, so it was clear that something had been going on in there. Kim's clothes were also found, along with her jacket, which was very strange because Peter said that he had dropped her off, but why would she leave the boat willingly without her clothes on? That makes no sense. So this next part is going to be pretty disgusting. But between 21st of August and 29th of November, parts of Kim's dismembered body were found in different locations around the area. A cyclist found her torso washed up on a beach, and through DNA they matched the torso to Kim, and there was a lot of injuries on it. A post-mortem examination found 15 stab wounds, mostly in her private area. Later, police divers found 2 plastic bags in Køge Bay containing Kim's head, legs, clothes, and a knife, and 6 days later, a saw was found in the water. During the same time, police divers also found Kim's arms in the bay. Her body was found with metal stuck to it so that it would sink to the bottom of the sea. When this happened, Peter changed his story and said that Kim had died on the submarine by accident and that he had buried her in the water because it had been so awful. He basically said that she was hit by a heavy hatch cover, and as he was holding the hatch, it just slipped and hit her head. But the post-mortem examination showed that there was no injuries to her head whatsoever, showing that he was lying once again. Then he changed his story again, saying that she died from carbon monoxide poisoning. He does not comment on the fact that her body was found dismembered. So the police investigation showed that at some point during the 10th of August and the 11th of August, Peter had attacked Kimball, bound her, tortured her with a sharp object, and sexually assaulted her. Following this, Peter killed her, dismembered her body, and lowered the body parts into the lake with weights. Exactly how she died is still not clear, but most likely she suffocated or had her throat slit. There was also cuts in her genital area, which suggests some kind of sexual motive behind the crime. All in all, Kim had 37 wounds and punctures on her body from a knife or a screwdriver. One of Peter's female friends testified that he had been sending her text messages as a joke, according to her, where he described how he would murder her on the submarine in the almost exact same way as Kim was murdered. The same week as Kim's murder, he had talked to this girl about taking her out with the submarine, and he had also tried to get other girls onto the submarine with him. So this makes it sound kind of like a crime of opportunity, in my opinion, and that the victim could have literally been any woman who happened to be alone with him on the boat. And Kim unfortunately went with him. On Peter's computer, the police found videos of fetishes, tortures, and killings. He had also talked to one of his co-workers about an internet site where you can see dead bodies. Police also found a video of a woman being strangled and decapitated on his computer, and this video is believed to actually be a real video. Before he left on the submarine with Kim, he googled beheading, girl, agony, and pain. He had also taken a saw, a knife, a screwdriver, straps, ties, and metal pipes with him to the submarine, which shows that the murder was premeditated. So Peter Madsen was sentenced to life in prison on the 25th of April 2018 by Copenhagen City Court after a very publicized trial. I literally live in Finland and everyone around here knew about this case, so it was a very public case. According to the psychological evaluation, Peter has narcissistic and psychopathic traits as well as being a pathological liar. He also has an abnormal sexual and self-centered behavior, and he shows no remorse, empathy, or guilt for what happened to Kim. Even people around him has said that he is manipulative and narcissistic, which honestly says a lot. In October of 2020, Peter actually escaped from prison by threatening a prison employee, but was surrounded and apprehended by police only 500 meters away from the prison, and of course he was taken back into custody. Many people around him still cannot believe that this has happened, which is often the case with these kind of killers, and his wife divorced him after the sentencing. The craziest part of this story is that Peter Madsen actually got a lot of women admiring him after being sentenced and has had a lot of relationships with people who did not know him before the murder. He actually got married to a Russian woman living in Finland, and she describes him as a victim in this situation, which is honestly just unbelievable in my opinion. Like, I just can't believe how someone can sympathize with this person. But anyway, lastly I want to say that there is a memorial fund for Kim, and I will link it in the description box. And I will quote from the website right now. The Kim Wall Memorial Fund was established by her family and friends to honor Kim's spirit and legacy. The grant will fund a young female reporter to cover subculture, broadly defined, and what Kim liked to call the undercurrents of rebellion. The funds collected will be directed to the International Women's Media Foundation, a steadfast ally to women journalists who have agreed to support and administer this grant. Kim would have wanted more women to be out in the world brushing up against life. We are asking for your help in realizing her vision of this braver, lovelier world. People around Kim said that she traveled to so many places in the world, but then she ended up dying so close to home in one of the safest countries in the world, just literally doing her job, which is just tragic. But that's all I have for this horrific case. I don't know why this case just hit me very hard, and I actually cried many times while researching it. There's just something about Kim. I think she's so full of life, and the fact that she was just doing her job that she loved doing and ended up getting killed in the process is just, it makes me very emotional. And I also followed this case when it happened in 2017, so maybe that's why it just hits me extra hard. My thoughts and prayers go out to her family, especially her parents who are still trying to keep her voice alive. I'm gonna wrap up this video here, but I will be back soon with another case. So goodbye everyone and stay safe out there.